Welcome to another edition of George Washington Speaks. I'm Tom Saffold. The Ferry Farm near Fredericksburg, Virginia was Washington's home from the age of 6 until early adulthood. In this video, George Washington, portrayed by Vern Frykholm, will share some of the essential life lessons he learned during this period, lessons which formed his character and made him a strong leader.
In 1738, when I was 6, we moved to the Ferry Farm across the Rappahannock River from Fredericksburg, Virginia, so that my father could be closer to his Accokeek iron ore mine. The Ferry Farm was a very different property from the two plantations. It was much smaller, with only some 400 to 600 acres, and was not particularly fertile and productive. Since it was closer to Fredericksburg, it had more of a city or town flavor to it. However, being across the river, it was not downtown. It was surrounded by two busy roads that crossed the plantation and was bordered by the Rappahannock River on the east side of the property. The constant activity surrounding the farm introduced me to a wide variety of business activities and to a more densely populated area. I was impressed by the comings and the goings of men, carts, boats, and supplies, and I began to realize the critical importance of good transportation routes. The Ferry Farm, then, is where I spent most of my adolescent boyhood and young adulthood, from age 6 through age 20. I remember many significant situations that occurred there, which both exposed my selfishness and lack of character, and then helped me to develop a stronger character in me when I resolved never to do those things again. My youngest sister, Mildred, was born shortly after we moved to Ferry Farm when I was 6. My siblings and I were greatly taken by this exuberant, joyous young girl, and we enjoyed watching her grow and flourish. However, after only 18 months, she died. I was only 8 years old at that time, and this was the first death of a loved one close to me in my young life. But tragically, it would not be the last death in my youth. A more significant and life-changing death was yet to happen. Later that year on Christmas Eve, when my family was returning from a visit to friends and family, we saw that the roof of our house was on fire. Such fires were frequent since the winters were cold and not all fireplaces and chimneys were of quality construction, and they needed frequent repairs. Because the only method for putting out house fires was passing buckets of water from one person to another drawn from wells or rivers, most homes perished quickly. However, we were able to limit the fire on the roof to the upper rooms of the house. And even though the fire put a damper on our Christmas festivities, we were very thankful that there were no injuries or loss of life, but only damage to the house and some of our possessions. When I reflect back to that time, I remember how as an 8-year-old boy, I stared with both fascination and horror at the red and yellow flames lighting up the dark and starry winter sky as the fire consumed a portion of our home's roof. While I watched others fight the fire, I also remember feeling small and powerless to do anything. Although I knew that the situation was beyond my control, I still felt totally helpless to do anything to help, and I did not like that feeling. And that would not be the last time that I would feel out of control and helpless in my life. As I watched my father, I saw that he was the cool-headed, guiding hand that directed the efforts of all those who worked so hard to put the fire out and who saved most of our possessions. In the days after the fire, I also watched my mother salvage and reorganize what was left of the house and possessions. But now, in looking back, I realize that she did much more than that. My mother brought a sense of order and routine back into our home in the middle of crisis. For me, and I think my siblings, her reassuring actions comforted us, and they were far brighter than the flames from the fire. I wonder, could it be that the examples of my father and mother that night helped me to be cool and calm in the middle of future dangers, where people's lives and a nation's future were in peril? Could it be that at the same time, their example helped me to be concerned for those who felt totally helpless by providing a sense of calm, order, and routine for them? A sense that all was not lost, and that there would be a tomorrow, and that ultimately we will be the better for it.
Perhaps you can begin to see how the circumstances and experiences of childhood shaped the character of George Washington. Continue to the next edition, where you will see his goals and expectations develop, and then collapse when tragedy strikes.